In 1996, two perfectly flyable aircraft followed air traffic control instructions and still collided head-on. Not because of bad weather, not because of a mechanical failure, but because of one single misunderstood sentence. This is the story of the Charkhi Dadri mid-air collision, the deadliest in aviation history, and how the lessons learned that day forever changed the way we fly. November 12, 1996. It was a normal Tuesday evening over India. At Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi, everything was busy but completely routine. No special alerts. No warnings of what was to come. On the tarmac, Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763, a massive Boeing 747, was preparing for its flight to Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. On board were 312 souls. Many were workers heading home, families reuniting, and pilgrims beginning their sacred journey. At the very same moment, high above, Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907 was making its descent towards Delhi. The aircraft, a rugged Aviation IL-76 cargo plane, was carrying 37 people, mostly traders from Kyrgyzstan looking to do business in India's bustling markets. Two huge aircraft, flying in opposite directions, on a collision course, both headed for the same patch of sky. To understand what went wrong, you have to understand the technology of the time. In 1996, Delhi's air traffic control had a critical and ultimately fatal limitation. Controllers were using what's called primary radar. Think of it as a basic, two-dimensional map. It could show the position of an aircraft, it's on the screen, but it couldn't show its altitude. To know how high a plane was flying, controllers had to rely entirely on what the pilots told them over the radio. They had to trust the voice on the other end. Even more concerning, neither of these two aircraft was equipped with a traffic collision avoidance system, or TCAS. Today, TCAS is the guardian angel in the cockpit, an automated system that alerts pilots if they too close to another plane and tells them exactly how to avoid it. But back then, it wasn't mandatory. For these two flights, there was no electronic safety net. If human error occurred, there was no backup. At 6:32 p.m. local time, the mighty Boeing 747 of Saudi Flight 763 roared down the runway and lifted into the evening sky. Air traffic control gave the crew their instruction: climb and maintain an altitude of 14,000 feet. The Saudi crew, proficient in English, acknowledged the command clearly. Flight data would later confirm they followed their instructions perfectly, leveling off at exactly 14,000 feet. They were exactly where they were supposed to be. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan Flight 1907 was descending from the opposite direction. The Delhi controller instructed them to descend and maintain 15,000 feet. This would give them a safe 1,000-foot vertical separation from the climbing Saudi 747. The instruction was acknowledged over the radio. On the surface, everything seemed fine. But inside the cockpit of the Kazakh Aviation, there was a hidden danger. The captain and first officer had limited English proficiency. All communication with air traffic control was funneled through one person, the radio operator. Every message from the ground had to be heard, understood, and then translated for the pilots. It was a chain of communication with multiple weak links. As the two aircraft drew closer, flying towards each other at a combined speed of over 800 kilometers per hour, the Delhi air traffic controller issued a standard traffic advisory. He informed the Kazakh crew about the Saudi 747, stating its position and, crucially, its altitude. The controller's words were, "Traffic at 14,000 feet." This was not an instruction. It was information. It meant, be aware of another aircraft flying at 14,000 feet. Investigators later painstakingly reconstructed what likely happened in those critical seconds inside the Aviation's cockpit. The radio operator heard the number 14,000 feet. In the complex, high-stress environment of a descent, a fatal misinterpretation occurred. Instead of understanding this as the altitude of the other plane, the crew seems to have mistaken it as an instruction for their own aircraft to descend to 14,000 feet. The flight data recorder, the aircraft's black box, later revealed the horrifying truth. Kazakhstan Flight 1907 did not maintain its assigned altitude of 15,000 feet. It continued its descent, passing through 15,000, then 14,500, and then right down to 14,000 feet. It was descending directly into the path of the oncoming Boeing 747. Back in the control tower, the controller was blind to the impending disaster. His radar screen showed two blips of light getting closer and closer, but he had no way of knowing the Kazakh plane had deviated from its altitude. He had issued the correct instructions and received the correct readbacks. He repeatedly called out to the planes, trying to get a status update, but the warnings were lost in the chaos. There was no cast to sound an alarm in the cockpits. There was no automated alert. There was no time left. At 6:40 p.m., over the small town of Charkhi Dadri, the unthinkable happened. The left wing of the descending Aviation IL-76 sliced through the massive left wing and tail of the Boeing 747. An American Air Force pilot flying nearby witnessed the moment of impact. He later described seeing two enormous fireballs erupt in the dark sky and then fall towards the ground. On the cockpit voice recorder of the Saudi 747, the final recorded sounds were prayers. Both aircraft were mortally wounded. They broke apart in mid-air, raining debris over a wide area of fields and villages. The wreckage of the Boeing 747 fell near the village of Dani. The spiraling remains of the Aviation crashed several kilometers away. In an instant, all 349 people on board both aircraft were gone. There were no survivors. It remains the deadliest mid-air collision in the history of flight. The investigation that followed was exhaustive, and its conclusions were chillingly clear. The Saudi crew had followed every instruction perfectly. The primary cause of the accident was the unauthorized descent of the Kazakhstan aircraft below its cleared altitude. The report highlighted the critical role that language barriers played in the cockpit, leading to the fatal misunderstanding. And it pointed to the systemic failures, the lack of altitude reading radar in a busy airspace and the absence of a collision avoidance system on the aircraft. This wasn't just one mistake. It was a chain of failures, a perfect storm that led to tragedy. The impact of the Charkhi Dadri collision was felt across the entire globe. It served as a brutal wake-up call for the aviation industry, forcing immediate and permanent changes. The tragedy directly led to CAS becoming mandatory on most commercial aircraft worldwide. Strict English proficiency standards were implemented for all international pilots and air traffic controllers, ensuring that the common language of aviation was spoken and understood by everyone. Authorities in India and around the world accelerated the installation of modern secondary radar systems that show both an aircraft's position and its altitude. Airspace procedures were completely redesigned to build in more layers of safety. Since these changes were put in place, the results speak for themselves. No two CAS-equipped commercial aircraft, when operated correctly, have ever collided in mid-air. The legacy of Charkhi Dadri is a safer sky for all of us. The disaster proved, in the most tragic way possible, that in aviation, clear communication is just as vital as flawless technology. Because when you're flying 7 miles high, one misunderstood sentence can have unimaginable consequences. Thank you for watching. If you found this story important, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more in-depth looks into aviation history. Fly safe.